This episode of Welcome to Nerdtopia was streamed in front of a live internet audience.
Ha ha!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting in the corner of Dr. Doom's basement, but he's our homie, so we never ever pay rent. It's N to the E to the Nerdtopia, like a plasma cannon man, you know we're steady smoking. Yep, comics, books, movies, and video games are our claim to fame and recognition and name. We've changed the reign, but kept it the same, and we hope to gain acclaim from time of the game. We're coming at you repeating from Walking Dead, and you know we got pissed when the Reddit ran red. A plethora of guests, even more than Bill and Ted. The ratings of the Lost are gonna go to our head. It's dangerous to go alone, your iPod should have us, and Superheroes got our back, and that you can trust. We're blowing up crazy large, like our name was Alderaan, so let's give a hand to Doolin, cause his mic is on. Word.
What's happening, Nerdtopians? Welcome to Nerdtopia. I am Doolin Dalton, joined by...
I am Ryan Visingard.
And we're coming back at you for another hour of nerdy goodness. And today we have to talk about Suicide Squad, man. We gotta do it.
Okay.
We gotta do it.
All right. Let's
You know,
do it.
every single time we get together, it's always something of the DC movie persuasion.
It seems that way.
We'll take a break after this. I promise we will take a break from DC cinematic universe after this. But so as for now, we'll chill out on the DC movie universe stuff after this. I think we've got the Rogue One trailer that's coming out tomorrow, so that'll probably be the next thing we talk about. But as for now, we need to get down. Let's talk about Suicide Squad.
All right. Well, I'll let you.
You want to let me lead into it?
Yeah. Why not?
All right. Well, you know what? Here's the thing with Suicide Squad. The last time we sat down and we really reviewed a movie, we kind of did the comparison to Batman v Superman versus Captain America: Civil War, and we really kind of broke it down and we talked about what worked in Batman v Superman and what didn't versus what worked in Civil War, because Civil War was a great film.
Right.
But my issue with Suicide Squad, which was the same issue that I had with Batman v Superman, was it just kind of felt very disjointed. It was weak storytelling, I felt. And to break it down, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and fire the spoiler alert right now, because if you've not seen Suicide Squad, you don't want us to ruin it.
Spoiler.
We're going to spoil the shit out of it right now for you. So just go ahead, walk away, come back, listen to it after we post the podcast. This is a live feed, so we can't stop it. There's no stopping us now, baby.
No. So, blast off into it. So,
all right.
give me your perspective.
So here we go. Well, we'll break down the plot. So, plot. First thing you see is Amanda Waller, who she's a prominent figure in DC Comics, senator. She always kind of has her fingers in the metahumans business. I think I remember her more specifically from Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. I don't know if you read that or saw the animated movie.
I saw the animated film. I recognized her from basically Young Justice.
Young Justice. She plays a role in that.
And I know that she does the Cadmus, and I've seen her in different comics. She's popped up here and there. So
she's our key figure to getting all of this started. After they introduce her, she comes in and she very briefly talks about Superman. Superman flew across the sky. Now he is no longer flying across the sky.
Right.
We've been introduced to monsters and superpowered beings. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. So now they've opened the door into this universe. We have these raging metahumans. We have to fight fire with fire. So she has suggested putting together a task force. So, I mean, they jump right into it right away.
Right.
So she's proposing this task force to, I'm assuming it's another senator or somebody. It's a higher ranking person in the government.
They're more militant. They're trying to get the military in on it.
Right.
So she seems to be presenting it to the military.
So in doing this, what they do is they introduce one by one through a series of kind of mini origins, I guess you could call them. They do a series of flashbacks.
Montages.
They do some montages, so you're introduced to all of these characters since, this ain't like the Avengers where we've had time to kind of get to know these characters.
Right, exactly.
So we're giving you a crash course. You get to see bit by bit, all right, here's Killer Croc.
Right.
Here's Deadshot.
Right.
Here's Harley Quinn. And so everybody kind of launches into their origin story. And I felt almost kind of like they were putting together like a dirty dozen of comic book movies.
It did seem that way, and the one thing I really
It's a good
appreciate was that they kept to the soundtrack that they had in the trailers. So each time you touched on each one of these characters, they had a different song that kind of spoke about them. I thought that was really cool, kind of touch to it. Yeah, so they touch on each character, and I think it's interesting that they kind of weave it in with what's going on with Batman versus Superman.
Right. Yeah. It all kind of tied together in that respect. Where they started to lose me there a little bit was, they introduce all these characters, and then they introduce the Enchantress character,
right?
Who once again we fired the spoiler alert, so don't get mad at us if you're jumping in now.
It's too damn bad.
Yeah, and stop. Turn it off. Turn
back now.
So they introduce the Enchantress character,
right?
And things go haywire with that right away. To make a long story short, she goes rogue.
Right.
Because she has her own agenda.
I know a lot of people are saying that the plot line is confusing.
Right.
Because they're like, well, Enchantress was supposed to be part of this group.
The Suicide Squad, right.
And then all of a sudden she ends up becoming the villain of the movie.
So then why did they make it?
Well, I think what it is she was pulling together a team.
Right.
And it just so happens that at that moment Enchantress turned against her. So it was like she got to test the team almost.
Sure.
Like she was putting it together, but there was no test run.
There wasn't. They didn't.
But
yet.
they didn't separate that enough. I think they didn't flush that out enough. So people are like, oh, "Why would you?"
Why were they building the
team? And Enchantress was part of that team. But then before she could get the team even almost completely formed, Enchantress turned against her.
Right.
So then the team has to be tested faster than she was probably planning, or whatnot. At least that's how it felt.
So we've got the rookies, Well, they're not rookies, but they're a
Right.
rookie squad. They've never worked together before, and most of them are not used to working with other people.
Right. They don't work well with.
They don't work well with others, exactly. None more so than I would say like Will Smith, Deadshot, in this movie. And
how did you feel about the character?
I liked him.
You did?
I liked him a lot.
See, I didn't. It's just another one of those that felt like, I think he acted it out better than anybody I've seen in cinema as far as that kind of character. Because the problem that I had with that character was the fact that, to me, they were like making him, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm a bad guy kind of thing with his daughter.
Well,
and
here's the thing, though. Even
anti-hero card, you know what I mean? She steps out, blocks
Sure.
the bullet from hitting Batman, all that kind of stuff. So it's this whole anti-hero kind of thing, and I didn't really. I thought his acting was fine. I just felt like the character himself was very. It just felt anti-hero-ish. Like he didn't.
Well, he is an anti-hero.
Well, he didn't want to play a complete villain.
And that's what I felt like that was necessary though, because when you have those characters like Harley Quinn, when you have those characters like Killer Croc, even in a squad full of villains, where you have they're all bad guys that are joining together for the greater good, basically. I think you still kind of need that Boy Scout character, and Deadshot is going to be as close as they were going to get. And the only reason they were able to kind of pull it back in was because of his daughter,
right?
Basically.
Well, I think that was the branch. That's what they used to basically make.
They showed his human side,
right? He's more human than people think he is,
right? So in that respect, I kind of appreciated what they did with it.
Now, acting wise, I thought he did fine.
He did a great job.
So for
Absolutely.
me, I think he was all right.
Like really, honestly, I felt like a large part of the movie was Will Smith and Margot Robbie kind of stealing the stage.
It was
in a good way. In a good way,
and it did focus around those two characters the most, because I think that those were the idea for DC to say, hey, if we're going to do solo films, it's going to be with these characters. What other characters?
Let's see. Who else did we have? We had Slipknot.
Right.
Who, spoilers, don't get attached to him.
Yeah, right. I actually enjoyed it. I thought that was good.
Captain Boomerang.
Right.
And when and I like this too, when they introduced him, you see a split second of Flash in his flashback.
Right, exactly.
You see a flash of Flash, man.
I did like the fact that Flash made an appearance. I do feel like he does look a lot like that Injustice video game.
A little bit. Yeah, he's got the armor on.
It's more armor than it is a suit. So I'm not sure how I'm going to take that as we progress. But
sure.
I think the actor who's playing him, from what I've seen at the
Ezra Miller, I think his name is.
The Justice League preview, I think he's going to be funny. I think he's going to actually bring a different life to that character.
As well he should.
So
As well he should. But so we're introduced to Captain Boomerang, Killer Croc, Slipknot.
it's like Captain Boomerang's like a lower end kind of character.
He's a lower
but
end. I feel like he's a lower end
comic
villain.
relief. Yes,
He is.
yes.
He was kind of the comic relief of the movie.
How did you feel about Diablo?
Yeah.
I felt like he was lackluster. There wasn't enough.
He was kind of. Well, I mean, he was
He's going,
the
a Zen Buddhist, and I'm.
he was the reluctant. He was the reluctant hero, so to speak. But kind of came in at the 0 hour, and we're jumping ahead.
Right.
But yeah, I felt like he had a place in the story.
Right.
Really did. So let's go on to the cons. We'll start there. So Suicide Squad goes in. They have to take down Enchantress. Enchantress is wrecking everything. There, and you have our plot. With what I didn't like about the story was, once again, it felt very disjointed. You know what I mean? It's I don't really know how to explain it other than the fact that it feels like weak storytelling.
I
to
think
me.
it's because it's a rush job. It seems like, and I'm just using an example here, like films like the new Ghostbusters and Suicide Squad.
Sure.
For me, fall into this category as they're more like setup films. They're setup films, so they're not really polished. They're not exactly like the story that you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be like the most exciting story ever. It's kind of like a setup film, and for me, Suicide Squad kind of feels like it's a setup film. They kind of touch on different characters. I think DC was also using this film as a way to judge which characters were going to be popular,
Which ones work, which ones don't.
they can bring back, etc. And I think, once again, it's a building block. They're just testing the waters to see which the direction, because they seem like they tried to get a little of that Deadpool in there, a little bit of that.
I think a little bit, because it had its lighthearted moments. It really did. Very anti-heroish, very kind of lighthearted moments that they had going in there, which I enjoyed. What I
just felt like it's disjointed. Like, I can see how, for me, my expression is it feels kind of rushed.
But I also feel like that was, I felt like that with Batman v Superman, which we talked about, and I felt very much that it was just sort of a weaker story and just kind of a setup. With Suicide Squad, still that, but a little bit less. Like, I feel like, okay, now we're gearing up. Now the DC universe is starting to go somewhere a bit. It wasn't without its problems. And it's funny, man, if you read the internet, people are just split down the middle there. Like, the people either loved it or they hated it.
Right.
And I'm kind of more somebody that's on the fence. I liked it.
Yeah. It was. I will say I enjoyed it. I sat there and got immersed into the whole idea of what these characters were, and just had fun with the film, and kind of let go. Once again, I could go back to being a fanboy and be upset about certain aspects of the film, but I decided to go in there with a clear head and just kind of enjoy the film for what it was. Of course, when you get home and you start thinking about what you liked, what you didn't like, what matches DC, where they're trying to go with it, you start to have problems with it. But overall, I enjoyed watching it, and I feel like this attempt feels a little bit like each film, like I said, is like a little
it's a little
block.
stepping stone.
Because, you have to think that everybody is putting these films on the same par as Marvel. And I understand why. I get it. They are the top dogs of the game right now. They make some of the best films. But it took them 7-8 years to get there. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, the stories were always good, but they weren't as polished as what we get now with the Avengers and what's going on with, Guardians of the Galaxy. And these films, they're very polished. They know what they're doing. They know what their demographic is, and they go after it. I think DC's still trying to fight to figure out what its how do you say it's
they're trying to find their niche.
They're trying to find their identity in this whole comic book thing. And they tried the Watchmen kind of feel with the Batman versus Superman and Superman, Man of Steel. Yeah. And it didn't work. So they're kind of it's almost like they have to reboot, but they can't. So they have to keep moving forward.
They can't. There's no starting over. There's no rebooting anymore at this point. I will go on while I'm talking about the points that I didn't like.
Right.
I cannot, and I really did try, but I cannot get behind Jared Leto's portrayal of the Joker.
Okay, so I'm torn down the middle.
Okay. I tried. I really tried. I really, really did. I promise.
I get it, man. For me, I felt if you got rid of the tattoos, the grill, and the whole, gold bling-bling I feel like I'm watching a rap video kind of look.
Yeah, he was very urban.
I think
very, very street. I didn't care for that.
The way he acted it out, I didn't really have a problem with. I liked his little quirky laugh. I like the fact that he's coming off as a complete psychopath.
Right.
I liked how the only tattoo I liked was the tattoo on the hand when he would hold it up to people's faces.
Sure.
I thought that was kind of clever.
That was probably the only tattoo we needed.
Exactly. But if you knocked him down 3 notches,
sure,
got rid of the grill, and got rid of the tattoos, and kind of, he needs to be, I think they need to do some kind of maybe CGI and exaggerate the smile a little bit. Just a little.
Yeah.
He's almost kind of, he just looks like someone with makeup on. And I get what they're trying to do with it. They definitely... For me, I can definitely see that they were trying to be very modern with him.
They tried to do something different, and I commend them for that.
But I feel like once again, I will agree with you. I'm not actually going to fight. I don't mind Leto's portrayal of the Joker. I don't like their choices and makeup, costuming. The costume with the gaudy when they're in the the club scene when they kill a tattooed man.
I hated that scene. I hated how he handled himself as Joker in that scene.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what? Like what was it? Like he calls Harley over to mess with the guy just so he could have some sort of.
That's the only portrayal in the whole film that I didn't like about Harley either. Since we're in this scene,
we'll get to Harley. To Harley. But I will say
think about it though. If they knocked him down 3 notches, how would you feel about him? If they took him down where he was like. I feel like he looks a lot like the new 52. I think if they exaggerate and do something with the mouth, I think the gnarly teeth or something.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with Leto playing it because he played it to a psychopath, and that's the one version of Joker we haven't seen in cinematic. When you go through the history of the Joker himself. So,
well, I mean, like this Joker felt like there was no real clear motivations except for one. And this is the one thing that I did like about the Joker, and this isn't so much Leto's performance so much as it was the rewrite.
Right.
In past versions of Harley and the Joker, what you see is he's abusive.
Oh, he's super abusive. And he almost seems like he doesn't love Harley. It's almost like she's just a toy.
Exactly. He's only kind to her when he needs something from her.
She's a victim.
She is. She's very much a victim. Now
she's a victim by choice, but she's still the way he treats her in the
comics.
It's
a Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, when you throw somebody out a window.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen Joker do that to her 3 or 4 times. Where you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this new film, it's almost like I did like the relationship between them. It's very Sid and Nancy punk rock love.
Well, what I really liked is as opposed to the abusive relationship, Joker genuinely loves her in this version of the Joker in his own fucked up psychotic way.
Right.
You can see it in the things he does and the things he says to her, and even so much so that he commandeers a helicopter halfway through the movie while she's in the thick of it.
Right.
Breaks her out of Arkham and then goes to quote unquote rescue her.
Right.
Joker actually this version of Joker cares for this version of Harley Quinn.
I do like that. I just like the relationship they had between him for what little we did see. Mm-hmm. I thought that they interacted very well together and they kind of match each other. And like you said, you definitely see the chemistry. You can see him playing that character. He actually makes that character care for her.
Right. Right.
I also like since we're talking about the origin part where, for me, I see a lot of people complain, a lot of feminazis. No offense to the feminazi.
Oh, we're gonna get mail now. No, we won't. Nobody listens to this. But
right.
Go ahead.
But they're saying that she's a victim, and I'm like, she's not actually portrayed as a victim in this because she makes a choice, and he gives her a choice, and I think that that's very potent.
Right.
And it really allows that character to be free and explore who Harley Quinn is, because a lot of people think that she's a victim, like you said in the comics.
Right.
Whereas this, they kind of make her they're equals almost.
They're equals. Yeah, it's
right.
very much a Bonnie and Clyde, Sin and Nancy kind of relationship. I mean, even in the few scenes where you see Batfleck kind of comes in, and I'll never not call him Batfleck, by the way. And I actually like Ben Affleck as Batman, but I'll never not call him Batfleck. Right. But there's the scene particularly where they're running amok through the streets of Gotham, and then right on cue you see the Batmobile. Like I watch it, I'm like 3, 2, 1. There's the Batmobile. Like
Right.
right on cue. Batman comes around, and the two of them are like they're fighting off Batman. They're shooting at him, and they're laughing and they're having a blast. And it's their date night. It really is. Like this is Harley and Joker's date night, and I thought that was a great touch because you've never seen anything like that before.
I like that scene particularly too. It was done well. I mean, they played off each other really well. I definitely like what they're exploring with these two characters, and I hope there's definitely a future for it. I would definitely like to see like a branch out or something like that, even a solo.
Well, I think
thing.
we'll see more of it in the standalone Batman movie. I think.
Are they planning on having the Joker as the villain?
I think I don't know for certain. I've heard stirrings of them doing a Red Hood movie under the Red Hood, which would be great because then you would have the Joker, you would have Harley, presumably a little bit of even though she wasn't there in the original.
Well, they'll rewrite it.
They can rewrite it.
They'll make it to whatever.
Well,
DC's
Margot Robbie
doing.
is totally stole that movie, so they'd be silly not to have her in the film when they do it if they do it.
Yeah. Well, what did? Is there anything you didn't like about Harley Quinn? Like,
you know what? I'll be
dive
honest.
into her.
You know
Tell
what?
me what you think of her.
Okay. We'll go tit for tat on this one because I have a feeling we might have differing opinions. But honestly, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and I'll tell you why. Is because no, she didn't wear the onesie. Okay,
but they touched on it, which was good.
And when you
which is
saw
good.
it,
It's
like you saw it for a split second. They throw
that,
it in there for
it's
you.
That famous cover by Alex Ross.
Yes,
where they're
but
dancing,
yep,
and I thought
and
it was
beautiful, and
fantastic,
it was great. I loved it when I saw it.
Too,
it was very quick, but then I feel like they threw that in there just long enough for you to say, that looks really silly on the big screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I still think it was cool.
We don't need it
as a fan. To
just
still,
absolutely
you get a little touch of that.
I caught it. I was like, oh, it's the Alex Ross cover. I love it. It's great. But I was actually the first person like, oh, fuck this new stupid Harley Quinn. What is this Daddy's Little Monster T-shirt? I don't care for this at all. This is stupid. But as I started to watch it, what I really picked up on was the fact that Margot Robbie drew her inspiration for this character from the animated series. Listen to the way she talks. Listen to the way she handles herself. Let's look at the things she does. I mean, it's more sexualized because they couldn't have that kind of thing in the animated series.
Well, that was the only aspect of the character I didn't like because I felt like we said before, they're kind of equals.
Yeah.
They love each other. And I felt like in the club scene, particularly, using her as a sexual weapon. Like I said, it's not a sexual thing. It was just like I didn't like how it was a manipulation. She's gonna.
Well, she is okay. Here's the thing, though, and I saw what they were doing with it, and as Harley Quinn, she's a beautiful woman. And she's going to use everything as a weapon to her advantage. In this case, sexuality is a weapon. And she uses it, and she uses it well. I mean, you can see it in the opening scene with her and the security guards. Right. You know what I mean? Like, she uses her sexuality as a weapon.
Yes,
it's not a degrading thing.
When it's used that way, you can see how it would be. It's better than looking at it as like I said, I just didn't. It didn't sit well. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like the character overall. But it was that club scene was like,
I didn't care for the club scene.
You know what I mean? It was very unnecessary, but I know that they're trying to set up this love part where
I felt like they really missed the opportunity between Harley and the Joker was, I think last time we sat down, we touched on Mad Love a little bit on that episode of Batman the Animated Series, and it really kind of touched on that particular relationship between them and how the Joker was able to manipulate her into becoming what she is, how to manipulate her into falling in love with him.
Right.
And what bothers me about that is, she's a trained psychiatrist that was trained to handle people like that. Well,
you were saying
and
earlier,
it's a testament to his intelligence and his brilliance. He's a raving madman, but he's a genius at the same time.
Right.
And when they touched on her backstory, they just showed like a few clips of him laying on the couch talking to her, and then the next shot they show is her sitting across the table, and it's obvious she's in love with him in that next shot. I'm like, show some dialogue that helped get her to that place. Like, you have such a missed opportunity to showcase his brilliance, basically. How did he manipulate this, respected psychologist into becoming what she is, and they didn't touch on it at all.
Well, I think in this particular version and what we're seeing in the film overall, I think
Cassie Lee Treitalt says they were meant to be.
yeah, they were.
Well, yeah, it's mad love, Cassie.
And it's psychotic.
It's psychotic love, absolutely.
Exactly. But I was when I was watching it, it reminded me a lot of the Oliver Stone movie. Was it
American History X? No, that's not Oliver Stone.
No. Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers. Okay.
Their relationship's a lot like those.
Very
two
much
characters.
so. Wow, I hadn't drawn that conclusion
Yeah. So
until
when I
then.
was watching the characters, I was like, and they even use the character even uses his girl as a weapon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see how it works in this film. Once again, like I said, it's the gaudy part
Sure.
that I am bothered by, and then there's certain scenes that were unnecessary, but I really do hope they explore it a little bit better. They didn't, like you said, they didn't touch on it a whole lot in the film,
Right.
but I feel like that's one of the things that DC's kind of doing to try to catch up. I think one of the main parts of all that is that when you think about it, they were talking about the same thing with Spider-Man, about how they were just going to not give you his origin. The next time they reboot it or something, it's just he's already Spider-Man.
Right.
And I think they're kind of doing that with Harley and Joker. And
right, 'cause we
you
don't-
already
we
know
don't
their
need it.
backstories. You already know years and years of this.
Then
and
again,
this,
then
and
again,
they,
we
and they
haven't
feel like they can skip it.
We haven't actually seen a Joker origin in any movie ever, really.
Well,
but that's part of
in
his
the
appeal.
comics either, yeah,
That's
but-
well, you've got Killing Joke, which
Right.
I won't go off on a tangent, but I did watch that the other
Yeah.
day. Finally, like right before I saw Suicide Squad, and you know what? And I felt like they did it justice. I enjoyed that version of Joker. Plus, it was Hamill.
Right.
I don't want to go off on a tangent with Killing
Right.
Joke because we're talking about Suicide Squad, but it would be really interesting to stack up those two performances next to each other at some point.
Right. But I think the portrayal of Harley Quinn was spot on for me.
Okay, so we actually agree.
I do agree that I think that we're going to see her in future films.
Oh,
and-
absolutely.
and,
I think I've actually heard stirrings just today that they're going to do they're actually going to do like a Batman villains movie that kind of features the female villains. It's going to be the female kind of girl power
all right.
baddies of Gotham. So
You
they're
got
going
Poison Ivy,
Catwoman.
Yeah, of course. It's like Gotham Knights.
I would be okay with that.
so-
I would see that movie in a heartbeat. Or you can like what heterosexual red-blooded male won't go see that movie?
Right. So what other characters do you feel like, as far as, Harley, I think they did justice. I think she did well. There's
She did
some,
great.
There's some small scenes and some tweaking. Joker overall, lackluster, almost too new, too gaudy, too...
Jared Leto tried to do something different, and you know what? Like, here's my thing: is I'm not hating on Jared Leto. I'm saying I didn't care for the choices he made, and a lot of it was his appearance, which he didn't have any choice over. But I mean, the poor guy, man. You have Heath Ledger's literal Academy Award-winning performance as the Joker.
Heath,
Granted, he won it posthumously, obviously, after his death. And sometimes I wonder if, did he win it because he passed away and it was their way of honoring him?
Right.
But either way, however you want to look at it, Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker was legendary, and he totally filled the shoes of Jack Nicholson, who came before him.
But see here, I think, like we said, it's just a new interpretation. Like I said, it didn't quite get me the way I wanted. I kind of liked it, but then like I said, he was too gaudy. Mm-hmm. Heath Ledger, I mean, the fact that they break these Joker, you have somewhat of the gangster in Jack Nicholson, and then you have the Heath Ledger's more like the anarchist,
right?
And then, like I said, I like the fact that they kind of made him, Leto's performance. They made him more of a psychopath. Like he's just fucking crazy. He's just fucked up.
If you look at Nicholson's Joker, he was the narcissist.
Right.
When you look at Ledger's Joker, he was the anarchist.
Right.
This guy. Really,
I mean, you can go back to the '60s one too. He's a clown.
He's a clown, yeah.
Right,
well, that was the first kind of iteration of that character.
Right,
he was just
so
the clown prince of
the
crime.
way they break it up is great, but like I said, it's I just can't get past his overall look. His performance, if they died down to colors,
Sure.
I don't have a problem with him. He reminds me of the New 52. Reminds me of when he gets his face back after cutting his face off.
Right.
I kind of liked it. He was very skinny. They made him look really like bony, and I kind of liked that look.
A little bit,
to him.
yeah. We can get behind that a little bit. So that was the whole of what I did not like and what I did like about the Joker. When you kind of come into the climax of the story, so like they go through what city was it they were in? I don't even really remember. It was an evacuated city. Like basically, Enchantress possessed half the population with her brother, essentially, which is really we don't really need to go into the specifics. It's really inconsequential. It was just it's a big bad villain,
right?
Like
I said, once again, that's why I think the character's a throwaway character, because it's a setup movie. It's
absolutely. Well, no, they needed a big bad villain, and they got it, and it's fine, whatever. But they came in at the end, and they go through all of these things together. And I'll be honest, and if anybody is listening, they might actually shoot me for saying this, but parts of it kind of felt like the Avengers, the first one a little bit, where they're all together in the city. Not quite as good.
See, for me, I almost put this film on the X-Men level. It feels like an X-Men kind of.
I'll tell you,
rushed and kind of like.
I'll tell you how it felt. Honestly, for me, as I'm sitting in the theater, and I'm watching the climax scene happen between Enchantress and all these villains, and it's serious. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot to lose. Everything's on the line at this point. And yet it's still kind of lighthearted. They're still poking jabs. They're still making jokes a little bit, and it's still kind of fun. The way it felt to me, and I said this when I was in the theater, this feels like this movie that I'm about to reference. Nobody lynch me for saying this. It felt like the original Ghostbusters.
Oh, did it?
A little bit to me. I was like, this feels like Ghostbusters to me.
Because of the way they have Enchantress there, and the way that she's
right.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And they're poking jokes like, you want to go for it? I'm not doing it.
Well, I definitely love the fact that they're able to be anti-heroes. That's very important to each one of their characters, to be able to jab at each other and be like, we don't want to be here. We kind of have to.
Well,
be here.
you think, but however, they got that they got to that point where the guy that was controlling them, like they had that chip in their brain. He presses a button, their head explodes, as we saw with Slipknot. He comes in and he levels with them. He's like, "This is the truth. This is why you're here doing this," which was the fact that he was, the woman that Enchantress had possessed.
I wasn't a fan of the Flag character at all. I didn't like him at all.
But he was a plot device.
Right. But yeah.
But anyways, what I was going to say was, he says, "This is what it is." He breaks the device that's controlling them and says, "You're free to go." And they're all in this bar, and it's certain death outside, and they just said, "No, you know what? We're in." At that point, I think they crossed the threshold from villains to anti-heroes. Like, they seriously stepped it up and became heroes.
Well, and the whole thing is, I think what's really cool, and when you dial into these villain-type characters, and they do this, like you said, kind of crossover into being heroes, it's funny because what I like about it is that the heroes do it selfishly. Or not selfishly.
Selflessly.
Yeah, exactly. And the villains do it for self reasons.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They're like, okay, we're going to be good, and we're going to...
Well, it's like it's like you also... I mean, to make a comparison, you have like, in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you have Will Turner, who is a selfless hero.
Right.
And then you have Jack Sparrow, who is a selfish hero.
Right.
But he's still a hero.
Right.
In his own right. So to speak, you know what I mean? Like he kind of walks that line, and I feel like it was a team of Jack Sparrows, really. Okay, like they do bad things, but only because it serves them, not necessarily because they're out to harm people. And when the tides were down, and it came to that point, they said, "No, you know what? We'll step it up and do the right thing." Will Smith had, they all had their reasons. Will Smith did it for his daughter. Obviously, as the guy said.
Well, I will have to say, when we're talking about all these characters getting together, they're one useless character that, to me, was garbage. Was Killer Croc. I thought he was
the muscle.
Yeah, but I mean,
they gave him a couple funny lines in there. I was okay with it.
I just wasn't a fan. I felt like he just didn't meet up to what I thought. If he's going to be the muscle, then he needs to be pushing people out of the way, doing the muscle.
Sure.
And instead, he was the same size as Harley Quinn.
He was much bigger.
I don't think
Really?
so. When you look at him, he's not much taller than everybody else. He's about the same size, and that was like one of my big problems with it. And then he acts like an alligator man because we left him down in prison. You know what I mean?
He was already kind of those animalistic instincts.
Right.
They didn't really. The only thing they said about him was like evolution took a step backwards with this guy, and then they just kind of left it at that.
Right.
And I will say one thing. I think we've gone over almost all the characters at this point. Did we miss anybody?
No, I will say performance-wise, I did like Enchantress.
It was okay.
I don't know. I think the character
She served her purpose as the
she was
villain.
doing. She looked good.
Yeah, she looked. I mean, it was all right. It worked for me. And then Diablo, which I said we would come back to.
Right.
At the end, I said, when the chips were down, he was the one that turned the tables and then sacrificed himself, which I felt like was a good way to go out for that character.
Well, he needed to go out.
Because he was reluctant.
Done.
He was done. Exactly.
And I do like the fact that they had some really cool
ethnicities.
Yes. I think that was cool how they toyed around with those different things. Diablo was cool to have the essay in there. I thought it was pretty cool.
I think they said he was a Latino gangster from Los
Angeles. Because if you look at it,
you
had the Indian.
Yep.
You
who died almost immediately because manifest destiny, bitch.
Whoa.
No. There's no Indians around to get offended, man. No. It's fine.
No, sorry,
I'm an 8th Cherokee. Okay, I'll say it. It's cool. It's cool. It's probably not cool, but that's all right. Nobody listens to the show. We can get away with whatever.
They had the Aussie. You know what I mean? Like they had some.
They had the Aussie and Captain Boomerang.
Right. So they toyed around with different. I thought
and then to make Harley Quinn the one that saved the day, which I thought was an interesting choice.
I think it needed to be that way.
Really?
I think Deadshot set it up, and then
she
Harley
knocked
executed it. So they're both on equal playing ground. If it weren't for his
actually, no, I think it was the other way around. I think
she
set it up and he knocked it down. Then I didn't think of it because remember, like she cuts out Enchantress's heart,
right,
and then throws the bomb out. And then they do it in like super slow motion, and then Deadshot was the one that shoots the bomb and closes the portal. Essentially,
so
and tell me it's not reeking of Ghostbusters. They had to have drawn from Ghostbusters.
Maybe they did. Maybe when they went and did the refilming, they're like, "Well, we know that Sony's going to screw up royally, so let's throw some Ghostbusters."
I just the whole time I was watching that climax, the only thing I could think was Ghostbusters, in a good way. Good way. But all in all, man, I feel like it was a pretty well executed movie. It was not without its faults. It had some issues, and yes, it felt clustered. And no, some of the characters weren't fleshed out too well. And yes, it was a rush story.
Okay, so there's a lot of bad, but it was enjoyable.
But it was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable film.
Right. And
and at the end of the day,
it was funny. And
at the end of the day, don't you just? I mean, really, what is the purpose of movies if not just to entertain us?
Well, they're supposed to allow us to escape. You know
exactly. And I did that. It wasn't a place where I kept having to step outside of the movie and be like, oh, well, this is bullshit, like I've done with other movies.
You could do that, but I also think that you and I and certain other, I guess, somewhat fanboys, I consider myself a fanboy, but I'm a fanboy,
I'm a fanboy. Yeah, I'm not like one of these fuckers that's trying to shut down Rotten Tomatoes for saying the movie sucked, okay?
Right.
You're entitled to your opinion. Absolutely, but I'm not, like, if someone has a differing opinion from me, like, I was not on board with the new Ghostbusters.
Right.
But the fact that other people were, then great. But the fact that other people were not on board, then that's fine.
Well, like I said, overall, this film was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I escaped, okay? I didn't sit there and, like you said, analyze it and think of all the problems, because I also think that we're set up for that for DC. As much as I hate to say that, you're kind of like, okay, you're going in knowing that there are going to be some issues. But once again, what is this, the third real DC reboot?
You've got Man of Steel.
Right.
And then you've got Batman v Superman, which I recently found out is not a sequel to Man of Steel. Like,
no.
They're now working on a Man of Steel 2.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard about that or not.
No, I did not.
So now they are working on Man of Steel 2, which will be the official. So That was weird. So this will be the official reboot of Man of Steel, or not reboot, sequel of Man of Steel. So yeah, DC.
So it's like a building block. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. They're getting slowly better. They're figuring out what's working, what's not working, what the fans want, and what the general audience wants. Because you have to take that into account here.
Sure.
I overall, I think they succeeded with whatever they were trying to do with the refilm, the re-edits, or whatever they call that. I think they succeeded. It was very lighthearted. It was fun. You didn't get too invested in certain characters. I think overall it was a good start, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they do anything else with the Suicide Squad, or if they decide they're going to do other breakaway films. It's definitely a good filler for in between.
You know, it works. It works for what we need now. It connected. It connected and it introduced characters.
Right.
And it kind of it expanded the Batman universe, and also kind of gave us a backdoor into the Flash universe a little bit as well with Captain Boomerang.
Right. Right.
So you know what? All in all, if I had to rate it, I would probably give it a C, or maybe a C plus. I give it a C plus because it was fun.
Well, for me, on a 1 to 10 scale, I'd say I give it a 7.5.
I would be with you on that. Give it about a 7.5. So we actually agree on this one.
Oh,
Holy shit!
Well, there you go, buddy. Yeah. So.
Wow, I'm surprised.
But yeah, I thought it was great, and like I said, I really hope they do touch on some of these characters, and I hope they revisit this universe. You know what I'm saying, or this particular branch in it. You know.
Absolutely, and they certainly will. I think when we finally get around to the standalone Batman movie, we're gonna see more of some of these characters, and then they have them. They have these characters on standby. They can throw them in anywhere they want to now. Exactly, you know what I mean? So I feel like now, finally, we're getting to the table with the DC animated in 3 movies. I really feel like maybe they should have taken a little bit longer with it and taken their time and made quality movies.
Okay, yes, that is the biggest complaint, and I will agree with all the fanboys.
But
they are rushing it. But
once they get there,
I think the payoff's going to be good, especially with Darkseid and all that. I think the long-term payoff with DC will be good. Will it be Marvel? I don't think so. Marvel's its own time.
You know what? They really are doing their own thing.
Exactly.
And whether you like it, whether you hate it, there's no turning back now.
Right.
They've got too much invested in it. So even if they fuck up a movie really bad, they will have to.
Well, that's what they're doing. Batman versus Superman. They figured out, we need to make it a little bit lighthearted, so they go back and do.
They did the reshoots on Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad has a better reception. There are still some people that hated it, but I think there's more people that loved it.
I think they loved it, and I think they really enjoyed and escaped and enjoyed a movie. It's a comic book movie, but you can enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not sitting there analyzing everything. I think the majority, too, of non-comic book fans really enjoyed it, too. I thought they thought it was fun, and I think that's great.
Well, we'll see what happens with the DC animated... No, I'm sorry, not the DC animated universe. We'll see what happens with the DC universe, and... we're going to take a step back from reviewing DC movies for a while.
We'll talk about DC forever, man.
I know. Well, it's what's been hot this summer. It's been this summer. It's been Batman v Superman, and then they released the trailers at Comic-Con, so we had to talk about that.
Well, it's hot, and it seems to be a controversy because once again we're talking about people need to chill out, man.
Well, I think after this we're going to take a step back from it. I think maybe Star Wars might be our next one because they're about to release that Star Wars Rogue One trailer.
Yes, and that movie looks like it's going to be fantastic.
Oh my god, I'm so looking forward to. I think I'm looking forward to Rogue One
when I watch it.
I think I'm looking forward to Rogue One more so than Episode 8 because it's going to be something. It's going to be little old, little new, But
yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be a cool film. I hope we get to this trailer is the bomb because the idea that they're actually exploring a different story that's happening within that same time frame as the first 3, I think that's great. So,
well, we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on it there, but this has been a good review, man. I enjoyed sitting down and doing this with you, and let's get you back in here, and we'll do another one real soon.
Oh yeah, definitely, guys. I'm enjoying it. Hope you guys are too.
For Welcome to Nerdtopia, I'm Doolin Dalton.
And I'm Ryan
Visingard.
The ultra villain. Hate me, fanboys. Hate me.
Thanks for nerding out with us, guys. Have a good night.
Nerdtopia.